Welcome everyone to another weekly episode of Marked Out Radio. I'm Sean,
and I'm Dana.
And for this week, I gotta say, you did not disappoint. You went out there and you made a decision to get the Hank Azaria autograph from last week on the window. How happy are you? How it turned out?
Oh, I think it looks great. It's exactly what I wanted it to look like. That's how I envisioned it. And believe it or not, I was not the only person in attendance with the phone.
Which shows you more than anything else that the mental illness of this hobby knows no boundaries.
Yeah. And let me just tell you, even though I was shared in insanity, I mean, there was one guy as I was that walked by me after he was actually somehow in front of me, even though I was first online. I guess he was friend and family of someone. And he got it done, and he's like, "Oh, we're twins." And I looked at his phone as he said, "Oh, we're twins," and he had it signed in black Sharpie.
I knew you were going to say black Sharpie.
Black Sharpie on top of the box, and I wanted to be like, we don't share any DNA. Like, that's not even close.
Not at all. Come on. And you got the quote and everything.
And the character name. And let me tell you, Hank, when he was done with the quote, he's like, "Is that everything?" And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, shit, I could have gone with the big window with a bigger quote. You never know what kind of mood you're going to catch these guys in. But it was a great time. I met Bobby, friend of the show, Greg 2600. He arrived.
Respecting the gimmick. He was there too.
He arrived in typical 2600 fashion, where I was not quite sure if he was coming. He told me he was in some different location. He says, I might be able to make it. Never said another word until I saw him walking down the block. But that's sort of the way Greg rolls. So it was cool. You know, the wait online went quick. We were just chatting about all sorts of stuff. The village was a little crazy because they celebrated like the St. Patrick's Day parade the week after, which is weird. But the drunks were out. You know, people were fighting and getting arrested at 2:30 in the afternoon on a Sunday. Because I mean, why wouldn't you? It was a great event. Hank Azaria drove down the block in his filthy looking Mercedes that he hasn't washed since like October, which I mean, my car is just as filthy, so I'm not judging him, but he drove himself in. He was happy to be there. It was one item per person, but apparently people got extras. So I probably came underprepared, but I got my phone done. I got my laser disc done. Thanks to Bobby. Greg got his card done. So all in all, it was a success. And apparently yesterday, which is like unprecedented, yesterday was his concert with the Springsteen cover band at Patchogue Theater. And a guy I know attended, and he posted that they did a free post-show meet and greet.
Yeah, when I went to MXPX last year, they did an unannounced post-show free meet and greet, which is quite nice. It was, for me, it was like devastating because I didn't have any items, you know, to get done, but that's because I'm an absolute nut. But yeah, it was one of those things. So all in all, Hank Azaria, a good time. You made the wrong choice getting the it signed on the window. But that's how it goes. And and Hank Azaria ended up doing the free meet and greet after. So what this suggests is, if you see that Hank Azaria is coming to town, much like Santa Claus, he comes bearing gifts.
Absolutely, especially when he's dressed like Bruce Springsteen.
So also this week, I mean, there's not a heck of a lot going on in the Northeast this week. There was 90s Con is happening this weekend, but last weekend was Planet Comic Con at Kansas City, which is in the Midwest. And we don't really get too many reports from shows in the Midwest or the West Coast because most of the people who are members of these Facebook groups are or on the board are heavily concentrated in the Northeast. But we did get a report from Planet Comic Con in Kansas City from Zach. And so there were a couple interesting things that he did a lot at this con. So there were a couple interesting or amusing things that I saw in the report. So he was there for Alan Oppenheimer to, Skeletor, to get some Skeletor autographs. But as is the norm these days with Alan, he canceled again. Alan cancels a lot of shows.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that he could join some sort of a club with Freddie Prinze. Like he's constantly canceling. So you book a trip around him or even largely around him, you're definitely taking a bit of a gamble.
I think there's the differences in Alan Oppenheimer is like 94 or something. He's in his mid 90s, and so there probably are like actual legitimate reasons for cancellation, but it just happens so frequently. I imagine it must be disappointing. But I guess they were doing some kind of He-Man thing at this con because they also booked Melanie Britt from She-Ra, and Zach told a pretty funny story about how she insisted on using her own questionably branded paint pen for the signature. It came out looking terrible. Fortunately, Zach is an old pro, and so he immediately, right in front of her, wiped the signature, gave her his own pen, and had her redo it. And that is the marked out way.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be even more proud of Zach if he wasn't getting water-based on a window. But listen, it works out for him. His stuff always looks amazing. And you can't... There's a thing with talent that they trust me, my pen is great. And it's usually not. There's certain talent I'll actually would trust in pen selection, but the vast majority I wouldn't. And, good thing... There's a lot of fans that would look at that thing that looked like like the pen just vomited on the window, and they'd walk away unhappy, but too like shy or whatever to say anything. I mean, Zach, I'm not surprised, knowing him, but good thing he wiped that and got it done right, because that would be awful.
It's actually funny. It reminds me of a story way back when Monster Mania ran a con in Connecticut. I think they only ran 1 or 2 shows in Connecticut. They weren't the cons didn't do well in Connecticut, which is why they stopped running them. But the one that I went to is headlined by Bruce Campbell, who, if I'm being honest, just does not do enough shows in the Northeast at all. But that was the only. Have you ever met Bruce Campbell?
No, not yet.
So it was an Evil Dead themed show, and therefore they had the 3 ladies from Evil Dead as part of that con. And I have an original theatrical poster from the original Evil Dead movie, and it's very valuable. Keep in mind, it's not in great condition. That's why I still think I probably paid $400 or $500 for it, even in the poor condition that it's in. But I got everyone to sign it, and I went up to the 3 ladies at the table. And by the way, the con was doing so poorly that I got them on Sunday morning. They had lowered their price to $5 each. Just to drum up some business, by the way. Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, they were like 15 to start. So anyway,
these are the good old days right here.
I know, totally different world. But anyway, I at that time I was rocking with my Elmer's paint pens to give you an idea of the time, because I knew I didn't want silver Sharpie on the poster, and I didn't want black Sharpie. And there were really not too many good options, but the white Elmer's paint pen looked gorgeous, especially on posters, because I believe it's a water-based pen, but on posters it would look fantastic. And so I brought it up there, and the one lady was like really not about using my pen. No, I have my own white one. And she did hers, and it didn't look too amazing. And then I looked at the next one and says, "Can you please just try mine? Mine is better." And then she did, and then the third person did, and then there was a guy next to them, and the guy's like, "You should have just listened to him. His pen is so much better than the other one." And it was funny. But I mean, it's really not that much worse. It's just slightly not as vibrant as the Elmers. Those Elmers
I never realized your Elmers were water based all these years.
Yeah,
wow,
they were.
So interesting. Back in the day before Defender cases, your figures all done in Elmer, they held up pretty good.
If you really looked at them, some of them did scratch and chip. They did. It was that was the only game in town. Bottom line, Fair. It was the only game in town. I had what I had, and it was a funny thing. Those Elmers, man, they were great for the time. They really, really were. I mean, they used to fail and stuff, but that's a whole different story. But anyway, the point is, bring your own pens, test your pens. Be like Zach, because when you have something of value that you like and that you care about for aesthetic purposes, you want to make sure it looks good. Speaking of aesthetics, he also met Don Bluth. Now, how are you into the whole Don Bluth universe kind of thing, or are you a little bit outside of it?
I'll be completely honest. If you would have just said to me, just who is Don Bluth before I read the report, I would have said I have no idea, no clue. I would have guessed like a punter on the Steelers in the 70s. I would not have known. So fill me in.
Well, Don Bluth is a pretty famous animator and artist. It depends on which world you live in. So if you're in the movie world, he did an American Tail, right,
A
among other
classic.
things, right. If you're in the video game world, though, he made Dragon's Lair. Are you familiar with Dragon's Lair?
No.
Dragon's Lair is if you were at the arcades in the early 90s, they had these games that were on Laserdisc and they looked like cartoons, and you had to press the button at a certain time and it would cause different things to happen in the cartoon. Have you ever seen those?
I think like conceptually, but I don't think I've ever seen this exact one. No.
I mean, Dragon's Lair was the one. That was pretty much it. It was the
maybe.
one.
I really never went to arcades, honestly.
So, in any case, Dragon's Lair was a big deal because it was like the first video game that looked like not video games. So, in the mid to late 90s, they started putting like full motion video into video games, like movie clips and stuff like that. Before that was this, where there was an actual cartoon. I mean, granted, these games were impossible. They were so difficult because it was really just timing a button press. You see a little flash on the screen or something. But it was still kind of artistically stunning, and he's pretty well known for this. And the art is just gorgeous, and for a long time, well into the 2000s, Don Bluth was selling like original full size posters of his movies and of his games online on his website signed for a pretty low price. I know one of my friends has bought a bunch of these, has them. But Don Bluth is really old now. Again, he's in his 80s, or so he's old. And so, but he was at this con, and so Zach had mentioned that they were advertising $300 sketches. And so when he got to the table and he had his poster and he was expecting a $300 sketch, the table informed him that the $300 for a sketch was for a pre-drawn sketch. And if you wanted a live sketch at the table, that was $600. So I imagine that must have been a little bit tough to swallow. But when you're in a spot like that with someone who is an icon in their field, Zach, again, showing his expertise in this kind of thing, he did what any good marked out listener would do. He negotiated. So he did not pay the $600, and he didn't tell us exactly how much he did pay, but he didn't pay the $6. He negotiated down and got a live sketch on his 11x17 of An American Tail. And so, Dana, I believe you would agree with me in that when you see a price at a con that you don't like, don't be afraid to ask for a reduction.
Especially when it's something like that, which is slightly a bit of a bait and switch, and it's a big number. I don't imagine he sold a hell of a lot of the live sketches, especially at a con in Kansas City. So I'm sure he was open to business to some level because you want to make some money. And I'm sure it was probably higher than 3, but I mean lower than 6 of an icon. See, I wasn't really aware of who Don Bluth was, but I absolutely grew up loving The American Tail. So you have a Fievel sketch on the 11x17 poster, and he also said he got the voice actor to sign. That is insane. Like, I absolutely am jealous. I wish he'd come to the East Coast, but since you say he's pretty old, I'm not holding my breath. But
yeah, it's and those that era of animation, and I'm really not a cartoon person really, but that era of animation was just stunning. I mean, his Don Bluth's particular style has this like sort of comedy and realism embedded into it. I think he's a very, very special artist. But I mean, the larger point, negotiation works. I've negotiated with people over things. I negotiated with Bob Camp once or twice about his prices for certain things, and just any time where you see something that is a high value item, it's the kind of we joked about Tenzon at big event. If I was in the market for his stuff, I would have shot him an offer. It's just I'm not, know. But I mean I think I could have gotten a deal done for a lot less than the 3,000 he was asking for.
But here's the difference. We've seen when we have talent coming into a convention, you can negotiate anything. I mean, worst case, you get shot down. But I mean, if you're talking like realistic bargaining strength, I think that there's that fan that will come up to you and think, well, I want to buy one photo op. You're charging 40. I want to pay you 30. And that kind of thing I view as like a spit in the face of the people that pre-ordered and paid the full price. So for me as a vendor, I'm not negotiating on that. Like, you have to be coming to me for like a very top of the menu, like high value, like type of thing, or you're coming to me with bulk. And to a lot of people, 2 items is bulk, but I mean, it's not. So negotiation, when it's something like a $600 sketch, I think is a little bit more real than negotiating, like I described, that you want a photo op and you want to pay less. Like, that's just being a mooch to me.
I mean, listen, last half hour of the show, someone comes up to you and says, I only have $30 and a $40 photo op. Do you take it?
I feel like this happened to us before, and I think we did take it.
Of course we took it. Of course we took it. I'm not leaving money on the table. I might be mad about it, but of course I'm taking it. So I think this stuff is negotiable, is the point. Everything is negotiable in this hobby. Make no mistake. There are certain events, even the big vendors, I'm sure if you have a lot of money in the bank, you can negotiate with Fanatics. It's going to require a significant dollar value. I would wager that they're not going to negotiate on anything less than a $50,000 deal, because they don't need to. But all of these things are ultimately negotiable. Everything is negotiable in this hobby. It's probably one of the few areas that's still like that, where there's always something that can be worked out. That's not to say you cry poverty in trying to get stuff for free, but if you have the money to make a serious deal, which Zach did, he wasn't a looky-loo at 600. He made a deal and he made it happen.
Yeah, tremendous.
So we also saw Steel City has added Linda Blair to their lineup, and Linda Blair is a convention pro. She's done a million cons, but we've never really talked about the fact that for Linda Blair, and there's a certain kind of guest like Linda Blair where you can't just book them. It comes with all kinds of rules.
Yeah, she's a little bit complicated. On a logistics level, there's a lot of guidelines and red tape. I know on a fan level, she has a bit of a weird reputation. I think, and you can disagree with me if you want, but I don't see a lot of people that are like overjoyed when she's booked. She's not one of those people that they will go to time after time to share a moment with their good pal Linda. Like, she's not that warm always.
Well, it's my look. Full disclosure: I have never met Linda Blair.
Really?
I've never paid her. No. I feel like there was one show that she was at where it was like a forced personalization thing. So I passed. I can't remember on it. It's been a minute.
I remember from my time meeting her, she takes a while with each person, and it's not so much that she's warm and bubbly and just talking to you. She's hard selling the charity, and she's like trying to get you to donate and different things, which, I mean, in and of itself, I guess there's worse things to be doing. She's advocating for some level of a good cause. Not that I've really researched the merits behind it all, but I'm sure isn't it something with dogs? With animals, dogs. So I'm assuming it's somewhat helpful somewhere. But yeah, I wish she was coming to a con somewhere around here, because I have a couple of things for her. I would find a couple of more if I, knew I was going to be seeing her. I haven't seen her in many years.
Yeah, I don't. The whole charity, basically, the additional rules that she has is that the con has to advertise her charity, basically, and her animal charity. And anytime you're having a compulsory advertising, it's a little bit problematic. It's a little bit frustrating. But I mean, look, she's in an iconic role in an iconic property, and so they kind of will bend over for Linda Blair a little bit and deal with her. I do know, though, I've read that if you go up to her and start talking about animals, then she carries on. But to me, like, I would die if I had to sit there and talk to Linda Blair about animals. I wouldn't know. That's not something to be fair, talking to any of these people really is not high on my list. But for her, in that's kind of the way. If you're looking for an experience with Linda Blair, you got to talk about animals for whatever it's worth.
Yeah, probably don't look up her wearing a Michael Vick jersey either. I
mean, listen, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But you made a very accurate prediction last week.
I did. Listen, I'm all about the bold predictions involving Mel Gibson. But as I predicted, his old running mate, Danny Glover was added to Fan Expo Philly. And as magic would have it, once that happened, all the Mel Gibson tickets were then made available and put on sale, including the Lethal Weapon Duel Op, which is $319.50.
Yeah, and also Helen Hunt was added to that show as well. So let's see if did they add Paul Reiser?
I would imagine, and that would put me in a weird spot because I don't know. I know I said months back on the air that I would 100% do it, but I don't know. I kind of like both of my individual photos. I don't know if I would do the group shot. I might, but it's not as much of a slam dunk as I would have thought. So would that make you finally get both of them?
I'd probably get both of them in that scenario. Yeah, I mean the appeal of the Mel Gibson Danny Glover duel is very, very high. So I think we're actually locked into this show as a result.
We are, and at this point, you tried to peer pressure me into getting the Braveheart sword for Mel, which I'm not going to lie, it was actually very, very close to happening. But then I went on the website, and they don't even allow anything like metal into the show. It's got to be like plastic and all this.
Yeah, I'm sure you could put it in a box and no one would notice. These guys, these security teams it tends to be amateur hour, And I don't understand. I would understand if you wouldn't want to take the risk, given the driving distance we'd be doing. But
I'll probably just go with a poster print of some sort. I think my question now is: do I do a full size Lethal Weapon, like original full size, or do I go with just an 11x17? That's a little bit more practical. So I think that'll be what I'll be chewing on.
I'm still going to advocate the sword. I'm just putting it out there. I think you should still buy the sword and just deal with it.
I'll do a Lethal Weapon dual sign Braveheart sword and have Class 316's brain explode.
So in any case, you really more than I did, but you predicted this run on the East Coast. Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, the Lethal Weapon thing, making it happen. So we will be there in Philly. Be sure to was that May 13th, I think. May 18th.
I'm on it right now. It is May 17th.
May 17th. I just made up that number.
May 17th. Say hello. We will be there.
Say hello, but not too much more than that. I'm just kidding.
Listen, give Sean a hug. He loves hugs.
So you brought something to my attention earlier this week, and this is because we actually didn't talk about this on the show. Scarlett Johansson has been kind of blowing up the groups recently because she made a public statement about how she hates interacting with fans in public, and that's why she'll never take a photo op with anyone. We never talked about that.
No, shockingly, we didn't.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I saw it.
She gave some kind of interview where she says basically she hates, and her reasoning was just kind of, it was a little bit circular. That basically she doesn't feel like she ought to be working and being around people she equates with working, and so therefore she is not doing photo ops with anyone ever. And then lo and behold, you found this, or someone sent it to you. I think Jerry sent it to you.
Yeah.
There is is she doing some kind of indie movie, or what is this? I really didn't look at it too carefully because I was at work when you sent it.
I'll be completely honest. I haven't looked super closely either to like the details because I really don't want to do it. Although I'm still sort of wavering both way. I don't really know what I'm going to do. But it's a charity benefit reading. The charity apparently benefits the venue, I believe, from what Jerry was telling me. It's a movie of some sort that's got Scarlett Johansson, Mark Ruffalo, and Juliana Margulies, among others. And essentially how this works, they're doing some sort of a reading. For $250, you get a cast photo op. And there were not really a lot of details about what this cast photo entailed and how it was going to be run. And of course, as you would expect from our marked out listeners, which, I mean, I say with love, but a lot of them are pains in the asses as far as if you are a showrunner, you got these people calling you 3 times a day.
I imagine the phones were ringing about this.
Yeah. Like you have Jabroni Josh, the guy who meets celebrities, that he's calling constantly. He's getting new updates. So he's the man with all the information. I think Jerry's been calling. Like it's like the old like WCW hotline or something over there with the way that phone must be ringing. And apparently the digging that they did was that at first they said the photo op was going to be with them on the stage and you on the ground. But I think that's been debunked. You were going to be with them. And now all the callers are trying to sort of ascertain if you're going to be able to stand next to and actually rub elbows with Scarlett Johansson. And I've been on record that I think there's a better chance that Mark Ruffalo like kisses you on the mouth for the photo. I don't think that's happening. I think she's not going to want to be, pulled into someone's sweaty armpit or worse. I think she's going to be far on the other end next to her co-stars, if she's even in the photo at all. Because let's be honest, if one of these people just jetted out to an SUV under some guise of, interviews to do or some other lie, I mean, what's going to happen? Nothing. Like, no one's going to really, you're not going to get a charge back with that. It happened. So I wouldn't even be sure they're all going to do it. And by all, I mean her. But that's where it's at right now. You will be with them on the stage. It'll be using your camera. And they don't know where you will be able to stand. What's your feeling on this whole thing?
Listen, it's a charity thing. So there's always like, charity things are weird in the sense that people who do them, I mean the celebrities who do them or the people who organize them tend to be more forgiving of aberrant fan behavior in the charity environment because of that it's for a charity. And there have been charity things we've seen where they were an absolute gold mine, and you can get so much stuff because people lower their guards in a charity type setting. And then there are other scenarios where the charity event is run like freaking this super aggressive lockdown kind of thing. So I don't know. The truth of it for me, I understand the appeal of wanting to do this for Scarlett Johansson, especially in light of the fact that she has publicly come out saying she's not doing anything. She will not associate with fans, really. So I get why people are bugging out about it. This is an opportunity for them to get Scarlett Johansson when that opportunity wouldn't otherwise exist. But that being said, I'm not interested in Scarlett Johansson, really. So that's the end of that.
I have a passable by my standards, which are not always the highest. Basically, she did a Broadway play, which she's done several times. I went one night, and I just sort of threw my camera in video mode, and I tried my best. And she gives a little bit of a lean as she sees it, but she was going up and down the line. She wasn't really stopping for anything. So I mean, it's in the frame in the game. It's valid by the loosest terms. I mean, I'm okay.
It's valid by the definition and terms we came up with on the board 100 years ago.
Absolutely right. So I have something. I have Mark. Juliana is a solid Sopranos name, among other things. So I wouldn't mind her, but here's the deal, which I've explained before. To get into the city after work for me, since I work east, it's a little bit of a pain. And there's also apparently no guarantee or confirmation that this meet and greet is going to be after the show, which after the show is its own brand of torture. But before the show could provide some level of I have to start leaving work early. It's a whole thing then. And this is over on the west side. I come in on it's inconvenient. So I am truly going to try and hope and just resist the temptation to do this. Will I cave? It's always a possibility because as you guys see on this show, it's sort of like I'm like DMX and the early 2000s. You never know when I'm going to relapse and end up at something. So who knows? But I'm trying not to.
Yeah, I don't really have any interest. I just don't. I don't want to go into the city for that, especially. Especially, and honestly, it's a $250 dice roll. If it was a $50 dice roll, maybe. If it was a $250 guarantee, maybe I can convince myself.
Yeah, if it was just Scarlett, that you knew it's just Scarlett, that they can't pull some whole, well, she had to go, but Mark and Juliana and the director are all here. If it was just her, $250 slam dunk charity thing, I guess. But it's if I went in there for a repeat photo with Mark Ruffalo on a Monday after work in the city, I'd be very upset. So I don't think it's worth the gamble.
I do understand that. What else we got over here? Let's see. There was a funny video. Funny is probably the wrong word. There was a video you sent me the other day about fans at shows who get inappropriately close to celebrities or touch them. Specifically, there was an incident that happened at a WWE live event where a woman in the front row got basically was too touchy with CM Punk and Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, it looked like she may have touched or pinched or something to the hind quarters of CM Punk, which he didn't like. Which who would? Cody's thing was a little weirder. She like grabbed his back of his head, which I guess was like her way of I guess the fake intimacy and like closeness. But I mean, considering you're on a guardrail leaning forward and he's in his gear at the arena, like I don't know how you can really fake that to look intimate. Like it kind of is what it is. But yeah, it was kind of bizarre, and I saw a couple of people commenting, it's interesting. I feel like if that was a male fan groping female talent, it probably wouldn't have gotten as far as it did. Like I would like to think if a male fan groped Rhea like that, he probably wouldn't have lasted at the rail long enough to grope Liv. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm giving the security too much credit, period. But I think that was an interesting little cultural argument that was made.
Yeah, it's to be fair, it's a little bit hard, especially, you sent me the video and I'm like trying to make heads or tails of exactly what's happening. And I imagine in that moment it was even harder, especially if you're,
Yeah. The Cody thing was more clear as to what happened because you see the hand on the back of his head and you see him like sort of duck out of it. With Punk, you don't really see what her hand is doing. I mean, for all we know, she could have whispered Jungle Boy into his ear. Like, who the hell knows?
Yeah, it's very hard to figure
Punk
out.
was a little more ambiguous, but Cody was clear. He did not like, which I can understand. You don't want, as fan friendly as Cody is, you don't really want to be touched like above the shoulders. Like that's weird. That's threatening. That's a lot of things. Like
someone touching your head is not fun. It's strange.
It is. So that was Cody's line apparently, and I'm assuming that she touched Punk's ass, but I mean I didn't see that, so I'm not sure. Phil, if you're listening, make a comment on the marked out group and just let us know.
That's what it definitely is. What it appears happened. Listen, one of the things we talked about when we were talking about the episode about fame and the trappings of fame, this is one of those things I think that normal people, civilians, don't really think about, is that people will come up to you and just touch you if you're famous, and that's a very I don't care. I know people like to say, "Oh, get over it, it's not that big a deal," but being touched by a stranger when you're not expecting it is very unsettling. It just is.
Yeah.
I think I think most people don't really think about it because it's not something that happens to most of us. At least with some degree of frequency, hopefully anyway. So so that was interesting, and it speaks to there's always a possibility when some of these guys, does Cody become less fan friendly now that it's been a thing recently for them to, after the live events are over, especially Punk, to work the rails, which Punk never used to do this stuff years ago. Punk was a salty dog, and now he's been working the rails. I think it's kind of funny. So you got to wonder if this is a deterrent for some of these guys to stop doing that, because it's annoying. It's frustrating.
Yeah, and just the last layer on this whole thing is, I believe, and I'm not an OnlyFans viewer, so I did no research to corroborate this, but it was making the rounds that this girl in question is an OnlyFans model. And it makes you wonder, was this some sort of a guerrilla tactic to sort of go viral and get the OnlyFans over? Was this just a weird fan who happens to have an OnlyFan being weird? I don't know. Did she think she was going to get OnlyFan tread because you're going to want to see her with touching Cody's neck on the OnlyFans? I have no idea, but I think she was an OnlyFans model. So take that for what it's worth. And, this might have been some genius campaign where she's gained, hundreds of subscribers because she's a pervert at the guardrails. I don't know.
I think half the college girls in America are OnlyFans models at this point. So I'm not sure how that, what that means. I don't know. As you remember from my text in response, I thought this was a weird story. I didn't really know how to deal with it. But I do think it's interesting from the perspective of, you have these guys who are trying to satisfy the demand for the photo ops and the autographs at the rails, and they're being touched and harassed, and it gives us a little bit of insight into what their lives look like, I imagine, on a regular basis.
Yeah,
there was another really cool story, interesting, fascinating story. And it's, unfortunately, we only get access to information about overseas conventions from Facebook, because, obviously we're not going to overseas for convention. That's probably a level of intensity that neither of us has. Would you ever do an overseas con?
In theory, I suppose, but here's the thing. If I went overseas, like, I'm not going to go to one of these countries that I've never been to without my wife. And if I take my wife and I tell her then that I'm blowing 2 days of the vacation on a convention, she'd probably murder me. Or even worse than her murdering me is I'd set her loose shopping without my ability to sort of stop the bleeding of what she'd spend. So it would just, and I'd be spending money at the con while she's spending money at like boutiques, and no, that would just be bad. So probably not, just for that whole ball of wax of what it would entail. But I mean, never say never, I guess. How about you?
I mean, I've traveled for cons more than you have, for sure.
Yes.
And for appearances. So I would never say never. It would have to be something that was really spectacular. Terminator 2 group photo op reunion thing. Sure, I'd probably go somewhere, But the reason why I'm bringing it up is because there was something that happened on the Facebook anyway, of an overseas con that's very interesting. So there's a con called the Oxford Card Show. I couldn't get a sense of how popular that con is. So if there's a listener who knows and could let us know, I would be interested. But they booked someone named Josh Herdman, who has not been a regular on the U.S. con scene, but he plays Gregory Goyle from all 8 Harry Potter movies. He's basically Draco Malfoy's best friend, that that goon-looking kid. From Slytherin.
He's actually an awesome little name. He's like an obscure Potter name, but he's awesome to me.
Yeah, I don't think he's at it. He was in all 8 movies. He didn't have huge speaking parts, but he was always there. But I think he's obscure as a name because he's just not on the American con scene. You know. And so anyway, they booked him for the Oxford Card Show, and then recently the show announced that they were pulling his booking due to the and I'm quoting them, lack of enthusiasm. And their exact quote, then they did not mean lack of enthusiasm in terms of sales, pre-sales. What they wrote was, "We want our guests to be as excited to meet you as you are to meet them." That's a pretty insulting, that's like a serious insult towards this talent. They're really, seeking to damage his ability to get booked again by posting something like that publicly. I find that fascinating because at least here, the commentary by when someone gets pulled from a show, usually the promoters are much, much, much more politically savvy about how they talk about it.
Yeah, you can just hear this response said with a British accent. Like, this is not the typical bubbly American stuff that we're used to. I would like to know. I suspected that the show itself was burned in some way or inconvenienced, and they're trying to sort of pawn this blame on. Well, he doesn't care about you guys. Like, I ventured, think about half the people at these conventions. They're not happy to see any of the fans. Really, they're happy to make money, and they act the part. And we've discussed that before. I don't think this guy has unless he had forced showering rules at the way Gail Godot had the metal detectors at Ace Con Long Island, that you had to walk through a shower. I don't imagine he had anything or did anything that was that insulting to the fans. I think they're just pulling this card as a way to, like you said, to sort of bash him for some wrong that he did to them, that he made their life difficult or something. I don't think it's exactly what they're saying, but it's interesting. I've never seen anything worded like this.
It's very hostile. It's a very, very, very unusually hostile comment that was made publicly. It's just, again, is Oxford Card Show like a pretty well respected outlet in the UK? I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. We try to get a handle on the international shows, but just like around here, they change ownership, they change names. There were. I know there was a big con in the UK that like changed ownership and then became terrible and became scam artists. And look at me, even like here years ago, we were trying to keep track of Walker Stalker, Heroes and Villains, and Wizard World, and all these companies that are running these things are complicated. Even when what's the name of the company that took over New York Comic Con, that they run New York Comic Con? Reed Pop. When the emergence of Reed Pop, and the emergence of Fanatics, and who runs this, who runs that, who really owns Fan Expo. Point being, we really don't know who runs these cons. I don't know if Oxford is a reputable show or not. What I do know is this is very atypical behavior from a con. So either this guy really did something that is a major faux pas behind the scenes, or this con is like amateur hour and they're really
I'm leaning on that. I mean, what would he do? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, he could have
asked more money after the fact, asked to get upgraded to first class, or asked to cut his hours at the con. There's so many things he could do that.
I don't even think that would be indicative of a lack of enthusiasm to meet the fans, or just be a symptom of greed, or heavy-handed negotiating or something. I wouldn't take that.
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. But this is like this thing that they did by posting this publicly. It's like
they look worse to me than he does.
It's the nuclear option.
Yeah,
is the nuclear? Hey, that is going nuclear on your.
That's
desk.
You canceling a flight if someone didn't. That card we've talked about before. That if someone doesn't fulfill their obligation, that you would cancel their flight home. Like, that's what that is.
Absolutely, and I still reserve that in my back pocket as needed. It's so funny because whenever we've talked about that, it never our final experience was never anywhere near that bad. We were just talking through the worst possible options, but it was always funny. Like, I'll cancel the flight if I have to. I don't care. You get all these private. It's just funny now making these private conversations public because they seem crazy looking back on them. But anyway, if you know anything about Josh Herdman or anything about Oxford Card Show that can shed some light on this, because I looked at the Facebook group. I was trying to figure it out. I didn't really find anything. So if anyone has any knowledge on this, I'd love to talk about it next time. I really would.
And someone should bring this guy to the States. I mean, listen, I don't care how enthusiastic he is to meet me. Just get him out here. I could definitely use him on several things.
Absolutely. I'm actually going to punt on number 8 because I'll get the full report this weekend, and then we'll do it next week.
Fair.
All right. So because it doesn't make any sense to do it now when we don't have the full report anyway. My brother's at 90s Con and I gave a partial report, and I want to get the rest of it next time. So if you're shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com or our eBay store at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook. All links are in the show notes on Facebook and Substack. And if you want your event, product, or brand advertised on episodes of Marked Out Radio, reach out to us today at markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com. Also, please subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast and leave us a rating or a review. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, if you can please go and give us a rating or a review on Apple Podcast, or you can leave us a rating on Spotify, or you can leave a comment or thumbs up or thumbs down on YouTube. All engagement is helpful. So the big topic of today's show, the Fanatics dropped their full lineup for June. There's a lot to talk about. The lineup is huge. I want to talk about the lineup itself. I want to talk about the day breakdown. I want to talk about pricing. If you're not a sports collector, this might be a little bit dry for you. We'll sprinkle some WWE stuff in here, but there's really no celebrities at Fanatics beyond WWE or athletes. So let's dig right into it.
Before we dig right into it, I wasn't confident that this was the complete lineup. I feel like there could still be some people added. I think the complete WWE lineup is known. But I don't know. I feel like there's still a little light on Mets or a little light on Knicks. I can't imagine that's only going to be the manager and old Mets. I think there might be more people to come, but I think this is probably a large chunk of the lineup that's currently
You might be
announced.
right. I thought I saw somewhere that this was the full lineup. I could be wrong. I think though that this is the bulk of it. How about that?
Yes,
and then
I would agree.
I think they did things a little bit differently this year, though. There are a bunch of people on here who are listed as date yet to be determined, as opposed to just adding them at the last minute. So, and also last year they added a whole bunch of people at the last minute. So I think we'll still get some more names coming up since it's not even April yet, and this con is in June. But let's do a walkthrough, I guess. So they have on Friday a whole host of sports names, and you said that you're not going to go Friday, but you kind of wish you could.
Yeah. I don't even know if I've ever explained why I can't really go on Friday, but how it works is I teach summer school in the summer, and summer school, I think everywhere, but at least where I am, like you're outside of the purview of your contract. So there are no like paid days off. And if you don't go in for one day's work, you miss that day's work. And then the way my school runs it, if you miss a day's work, you then miss the day on the back end for the bonus, as a bonus if you don't miss any days. So you're essentially losing 2 days' work to miss one. So you're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on top of what I'd already be spending. So then it's like if I went for a Dwayne Wade photo op, I had to tack on, X amount of hundreds of dollars of what I'm losing on the bonus in the day to get that. So I'm like
that's not even calculating the cost of the photo op.
Yeah, so I would be sitting there. I'd be like legit like Krabs from SpongeBob, just miserable at all the money I'd be losing. I wouldn't have any fun. So I just will, and I'll be miserable at work knowing I'm missing the Friday. It's just I'm going to be miserable, wherever I am. But I'd rather be miserable, making money than losing it. So Friday is out for me. I guess you are a free man in the summer. You don't do summer school, so you could do whatever you want.
Yeah, no, I actively this is. I mean, I imagine other normal people will be resentful of me for this, but I actively refuse to work over the summer. This is a life choice that I have made. I don't do any kind of summer work. Summer employment.
Listen, I went into teaching for that reason. That was why I decided to be a teacher. First and foremost was to have summers off. But I mean, I enjoy my job enough, and the summer pay is good enough where it just helps me out in a lot of ways. So up until now, I've done it. Maybe 10 years from now, when I have kids, maybe I won't. But I mean, right now, it's good money.
I'm looking at it more of a how am I going to watch the entire run of Law & Order SVU if I have to do something over the summer?
Fair.
So yeah. So in any case, they're doing the same thing they did last year, where there are certain people who are going to be there but not signing, and I think these names, there's only a couple added, and I think we're going to see more of those pop up. So right now they have Tom Brady and Derek Jeter as your people who are appearing but not yet or not signing at all. And Derek Jeter is announced for Friday. Tom Brady is date TBA. Any thoughts on that practice, bringing guys in who will not sign for the public?
I mean,
or do ops?
I think Comic-Cons do that to some degree, but I mean, like San Diego Comic-Con, not every big A-lister that's appearing on the stage for something is always really doing any sort of, definitely not always something with a price tag. Sometimes they'll do the little free deals for 90 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever, some small amount of time that they're at a table. But for paid ops, Robert Downey Jr., if he does a San Diego Comic-Con, is not doing ops like that. So I could respect it. But Jen, it kind of makes me wonder, Jeter's done enough publicly in the past, why wouldn't you throw them up there for $1,000 each and see who bites? I don't know. But
I have to say, I think the reason is a little bit more craven than that. I think the reason is when Fanatics bought out the Yankees deal from Steiner, right? Steiner had a shocking amount of Jeter inventory, and I suspect still does. And Fanatics is really not interested in devaluing that stuff. Why would they? They paid a lot of money for it. So I think the money that they would make having a Derek Jeter signing for an hour in public is in their eyes lower than the retention of value that is just a consequence of not having him signed at all in public.
I could believe that they would be sort of relinquishing some of their monopoly on the supply versus.
Yeah, I mean, do I have evidence that is the reason? No, but that is certainly part of the. It has to be part of the calculation. It has to be. What will be the devaluation of this product when quantity is released to the market? That's it. I mean, there's no other way to say it. So that's my hypothesis. It could also be Jeter's doesn't want to be bothered. I don't know, or probably some combination thereof. But look, there's always a price. Everybody's got a price. Everyone's got a price. So the fact they're not even offering a price is curious. So then who else they have on big names from Friday? They got the Manning brothers. The Manning brothers are, at least Peyton anyway, these are huge names. They've made a tremendous amount of money, and they're charging a tremendous amount of money. And do you ever have like an impulse to get like a Peyton Manning or something like that just for historical significance?
100%. I'm actually glad that he's on Friday because I can't. I don't even have that ability to make that decision. Also, let's keep in mind they have him lower on the scale. But Archie Manning is there as well, which kind of makes me scratch my head. Like, I mean, Peyton's a $410 op. Eli is $190. Archie's like $75. But like, I would have thought, since you have all these people, this is what I'd like to see Fanatics Fest do. Why not throw up there for like a big number? Maybe no one does it, but why not have a pro op of the Manning family, like all three of them? Like that would have to appeal to somebody. And I feel like logistically, it wouldn't be that hard to make happen.
I truly suspect they just don't think like we do.
I guess. But yeah, that's pretty cool. You have any temptation for like these huge, like iconic quarterbacks?
Peyton, yes, honestly. I think Peyton is significantly more historically meaningful than Eli. But which I guess is reflected in the price. I'm looking at the names that are interesting, like, and you were talking about wanting Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade's price for me is exclusionary at $290. One of the really, because they typically have a lot of Yankees and Mets at these shows, so they have like CC Sabathia, who's a cool name, but at $255 for a photo and between $245 and $400 an auto, I think is just priced too high.
I don't see CC as a $500 combo. And this is a whole different time. I met him back when Steiner would do the New Rochelle HQ meet and greets, and I'm like 99% sure that I'm accurate on the price. I think I remember this. This was like their standard rate. It was $199, which got you a photo op, an autograph, an open buffet, which would be like a sandwich and whatever. Like it was never like a full on dinner, but it was good. And like the Q&A, which I mean, who cared about that? But it was still like an entire evening for $200. Granted, now new economics on the whole game. He's in the Hall of Fame. I get it. He should be higher, but I don't think he's a $500 combo. That's just a little high to me. So I agree.
I guess you know what it is. Because he's in the Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah, all the people that have the prints and different things that they have the projects, you gotta strike while the iron's hot. Dwayne Wade is high. $290 is high. If I was there on Friday, I would get him. I think they're viewing it from the whole perspective. He won rings with Shaq. He won rings with LeBron and Bosh. That they're sort of putting him in like that Kobe tier. I don't see him in that tier, and I don't want to make this a sports show right here. So I'm not going to go deep down the rabbit hole. But to me, I don't think he's that level. But whatever.
And certainly not of the same level of mainstream notoriety as some of these other guys.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
But again, so I would do it. I would overpay if I was there.
I think a really interesting booking is Wade Boggs. I don't see Wade Boggs doing too many of these shows. Photo op price at $85 is, I think, well within line of a player from that era with that level of notoriety in New York. I think it's a great name. If we were going in on Friday, I hate the idea of doing this by myself on a Friday. I really would not want to do that. So I would probably pass, but I would get Wade Boggs for sure.
He
There were
used to
some.
do a lot of the like baseball shows. I don't know if he's still at those card shows. I want to say kind of, sort of, yeah, a little bit. I know I got him at Roosevelt with Steiner years ago. So he's not like rare, but I mean the pricing is very fair. Pricing is good. That's where he should be. I'm sure there's some old time sports guys that'll say, but back in the day they'd pay 60 for an autograph and get a free table up. But I mean, different.
Well, I suspect there were shows where you'd pay 30 or 40 for a Wade Boggs and get a free photo op, but
yeah, but for today, that's fair. Then you have John Franco, who I absolutely love, but they're charging 65 on the op, 60 on the autograph. John Franco's a guy that you could see at damn near every little sports card show in the area. He's, you could throw him at a Honda dealership. You could throw him at a grand opening at Costco. Like, that's the kind of player he is. And I say that with no disrespect, even though he probably wouldn't love to hear it. I think he's going to draw nothing at this show. I think those prices are exorbitant for his lack of rareness.
What's funny is they have Doc Gooden, 35 photo, 30 autograph. To me,
that's where Franco should be, if not less.
That's where Franco should be too. And I know Doc Gooden does so many shows and whatnot, and basically has no money still, so he needs these bookings. But like, Doc will draw at that. I mean, frankly, there were plenty of shows where you'd buy an admission ticket and Doc was a free autograph at them. That used to be a thing. Having it, and Doc still looks good like Doc. So having a photo with Doc for $35, I think is actually quite a steal.
Yeah.
They also have the there's some of these guys who I'm skipping over the list a little bit. I mean, they have. Oh, actually, let's not skip the list. Who cares? Paul Goldschmidt is $155 op. Does that make sense to you?
He's former MVP. Definitely going to be in the Hall of Fame. That number will go up. I'm fine with it. If I was a Yankee guy, I was there, I'd get it. Even though he's not known for the Yankees, but still.
I was going to say that's fair. Not an era that I'm familiar with, so.
I think that's fair. RG3 is only doing a podcast?
Yeah, he's not...
He does some of those Jersey sports shows. I know he does some of those football shows. That's weird.
Maybe he'll get added later. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Ron Guidry, he's done a million shows. The ever friendly and delightful to be around Reggie Jackson will be there. In case you're wondering, Reggie Jackson is infamously one of the most miserable athletes at these shows. He hates doing them. He is hostile towards fans most of the time. Occasionally, people will have a good experience with him. I see that his autograph pricing is anywhere from $180 to $1,500. So I suspect, and I don't really know all these guys, but some of them have. Maybe it's $1,500 if you want them to sign their rookie card or a specific item that is perceived to have huge value on the secondary market.
$1,500, I would hope that's like a counterfeit deed to his house or something. Jeez, that is a big number.
It's a big number. Ray Lewis is there for a $200 op. I think Ray Lewis capitalizes on the mainstream notoriety that he got.
Agreed.
And so I think that's why he's priced that high. I don't think his career in the NFL justifies that price, but he is a mainstream name. I am not a huge football fan, but obviously I know who Ray Lewis is because of his name. Mario Manningham is a giant, very inexpensive, $40.
Yeah, that's fair. And then Andy Pettit, I think, might be the value of the show. And I get with the steroids and everything, he's a little blemished, but $125 for a photo op of one of the key, arguably the top pitcher of the Yankee dynasty, as far as just being there for most of it. And that's a steal.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really talked about this because we really don't have too many sports conversations, but I do think that the guys from the steroid era have been unfairly maligned by the hobby. I think that
we will talk about a steroid guy in the next, 2 guys. Actually, let's go to him right now. Manny Ramirez.
Manny Ramirez, steroid is his middle name practically.
Yeah, 260 photo op, 350 autograph. Why is he not affected by this? And Andy Pettit is, when it doesn't make sense to me. This is New York, core 4, Yankee. I don't really understand. But hey, listen, for Yankee fans that are going, take advantage. Andy Pettit's pricing is great.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because it's funny because Andy Pettit is $1.25 for the photo op. Jorge Posada's $2.35. I get it. Posada was like a very very important catcher for a while and an important position, but those putting the having them juxtaposed on the screen like that is surprising to look at.
Yeah, I mean, it almost makes me, not that I'm trying to give Fanatics inspiration here to change their pricing, but it almost makes me feel like Andy Pettit's a typo when you compare it to the other, like, contemporaries here. But, whatever.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Phil Sims, a little
always
higher
popular,
than he's been.
Popular giant. Everyone, everyone knows
I'm fine
him.
with it. Justin Tuck, a little higher than I would have thought, but he was around for those Super Bowl wins. I guess that makes sense.
What do you think about Volpe at $190 autograph and between $180 and $500? I'm sorry, $190 photo op and between $180 and $500 autograph.
I mean, it's entirely it's like our ID game plan on steroids, basically, with the assumption that you're getting like the next Francisco Lindor, who's going to end up signing some big fat contract and will probably never do one of these while active again. So that's the thought. Like, is Volpe going to be one of their like star players for the next 15 years? And I would say probably not, but I'm also not a Yankee guy. So like for me, it's easy to say that. If this was a guy on the Mets, like a Francisco Alvarez, who I might be seeing in the next couple of weeks, maybe I overpay because, you never know. And you want to have the lottery ticket just in case. But I think it's high.
Speaking of Mets, we have Billy Wagner.
Billy Wagner, fresh off the Hall of Fame, one of the better closers of all time, not just for the Mets, but anywhere. I'm fine with it. 125 photo, 120 auto. That's fair.
So here's the thing that confuses me. Billy Wagner, Hall of Fame, $125. CC Sabathia, Hall of Fame, $255. Do you think there's a
I think
$100 delta?
There's definitely I would have CC around 175 to Billy's 125. I think there's definitely, plus, he was a Yankee. He won the Cy Young. He did different things. Billy Wagner's got a couple of the Reliever of the Year awards, I believe. But that's not, that doesn't carry the weight.
Also, I think I know you might not be happy with this, but I think there's more value associated with being a Yankee than there is being a Met.
Absolutely, I agree with that, and I am happy with that because most of what I collect are the Mets, so that's great. It's cheaper.
Then there's some guys I don't really know too much about. Chris Webber, I know the name because I know he's a noteworthy player. 195 photo op. Is that in line? It seems high to me.
It feels high, but I'm thinking this seems to be a common thing with the NBA. The NBA players, I don't know, maybe their contracts, I think they've always made a little bit more in terms of like guaranteed money. So maybe they just expect more and they have to be higher. I'm not sure. But yeah, it feels a little high. Austin Wells, another one like Volpe, but I mean, significantly lower, 85 to an 80.
But you look at the high end autograph is still $300. I'm curious what that is. I think honestly, another interesting price, Bernie Williams. Bernie is historically a really important Yankee, part of that incredible team, to be a 4-time World Series winner, and he was like one of the faces of the team. He's at 155. Did I get that right? 155 for an autograph and between 150 and 215 for a photo op. What do you think about that?
I'll sound like one of the old timers now. I definitely got an autograph and a free table op for under 100 back in the day, but this is not back in the day. I think he's one of the most underrated Yankees of all time. I think absolutely he was, a 30 and 100 guy, 25 and 100 guy, like a lot. He was great in the field. I think it's fine. I think he should be higher than what he was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I think that makes perfect sense. And I think he feels a little more like Pettit in terms of pricing than he does Posada. Posada feels a little high. But
if you're a fan of the Yankees dynasty, Bernie Williams has to be part of your collection.
You need it.
He's a very important face. So then Saturday it becomes WWE Day. So
oh damn! I just clicked Saturday. They changed this now. Dwayne Wade is Friday and Saturday.
I was just gonna say that. In fact, I'm sorry that you said it first because I was gonna make fun of you, and I couldn't even do that because you got it
Well,
out first.
listen, I'll say it right here. If I'm in the building Saturday, which I think I will be, I will be getting Dwayne Wade. So I will put my money where my mouth is. I will get Flash because he was an important player in that era. I think he's high, but I'll pay it.
So you got the WWE. So Saturday's a big WWE day. You got The Undertaker, Jey Uso, Liv Morgan, Jacob Fatu, Charlotte Flair, Chelsea Green, and Tiffany Stratton as the WWE people.
For Saturday.
For Saturday.
Sunday, we will get to the Sunday people when we hit Sunday.
But at this point, go ahead.
WWE, I'm fairly certain the WWE lineup is concrete, etched in stone, final. I don't think they're going to be adding any more because they did the whole graphic and everything. It looks so. This is around the same amount of people they had last time. So I think this is it.
So Taker's a mainstay at these things. He's at all of them. He does.
Yeah, I'm shocked he didn't do the first one. It seems he's in that slot that the Hulkster was in last year. So
yeah, I think Taker will draw at these prices. This is where he's been. I think his autograph slot will be a little bit light because Taker's autographs have been soft. For years, Taker was an impossible autograph. There was a huge premium. He was hard to get. He was expensive. And Taker's been doing nothing but sit on his ass and sign for the past several years. And so there's a lot of Taker out there. In fact, I'm going to be honest, unless you have a unique Taker item that you need him on, or if you need him on a multi-signed item, go to eBay and get Taker. You can find high quality, awesome Taker stuff for significantly below what Fanatics is charging to get him done in person.
Yeah, I mean, you go to Fanatics, get something signed. Like, I always love those posts when someone will be for some convention and they're like, oh, if I'm looking to resell this, like, what should I get or who should I get? And it's like 9 times out of 10, if you were walking up to a table, especially an Undertaker table, and you're paying the sticker price, the retail price for an autograph, and you think you're going to ever sell this for profit, unless it's something super weird and unique and just whatever. Like, you're not. Like, that is the ultimate, like, drive the car off the lot and watch the thousands just drop. Like, that's what it is. If you're getting Taker at Fanatics Fest, it should be on something that is personal, that is that you cannot replicate it. It's just completely something you need signed. Otherwise, right, like you said, go to eBay.
So they also have Jey Uso. Jey Uso's price has gone up from last year. What was he, $80 last year?
As it should. I mean, listen, this guy, I would have said 2 days ago he's headlining one of the WrestleManias, but I mean,
I was just about to say he is not headlining WrestleMania.
But I mean, he will be yeeting. Will he win the title? You say no. You say that there will just be a yeet stuffed up, just glued on the bottom of Gunther's boot.
Look, I think the demotion is what was the inevitable outcome. There's no confidence in him because he's not that good, and he has a role. He draws fan interest. He draws a little money. He sells some merch. He's not a top tier talent. He might like eke into the top tier star wise because he's getting pushed. But he's not a top tier talent. So look, God bless. He'll make some money.
I am on record. He will outperform his crowd last year because the kids love him. I'm still unsure if they love him as much as they love the whole yeet and the word and the branding and all that. But whatever. He is the brand and the brand is him, and he will outdraw himself last year. So
I didn't see the lines. How were his lines last year?
Ops were great. Ops, he was like, deep. I don't know about autos. I never made it over there. But yeah, I think it's a good booking. I think you couldn't not have him here.
Liv Morgan has gone up from last year too. I believe she was $80
as she should. Also. As I think she should. She's higher on the card. I mean, I think there's going to be a ton of guys that met her last year that will be lined up to meet her again for obvious reasons. That's just the way the fans are. And I think she's, again, a no-brainer type booking. She's probably as common as they come as far as the WWE roster. She does so many events and hits everything in the airports, and she's awesome like that. But I mean,
yeah, so she's at $104 for photo ops and $99 for autographs. Again, Liv Morgan's autograph is not worth $99.
No. And I'll skip
uncommon items.
I'll skip the sports row really quick just to sort of finish WWE for the day. Jacob Fatu is absolutely a genius booking. It really had to happen. I would have preferred Solo. I have Jacob, but it makes perfect sense. 84 op, 79 autograph. Basically, he's right where Jey Uso was last year. I think he will basically draw what Jey Uso did last year. He is extremely over. He hasn't even turned yet. He is going to be massive. If you don't have Jacob Fatu, Sean, you should be on.
Don't.
You need to get Jacob Fatu.
I don't know. We'll see. We got Charlotte Flair. I'm actually a little bit confused by this booking. I mean, Charlotte Flair recently had a comeback, and so on that level, she's fresh, but she's also really not currently like one of the favored people of the fan base. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I think as a result, honestly, I think her price is sort of indicative of that. I feel like 99 auto, 105 photo op. I mean, think about the like out of work wrestlers that you see that are like hovering around $99 for an autograph. Like, I think that's actually a fair price if I cared to, and I don't really think I care to, but an ultimate, like I'm actually tempted to grab like a Charlotte ultimate and get that done for $99, but I probably won't.
Yeah, I don't think Charlotte's going to draw here. Charlotte's comeback was not particularly well received. Her reaction at the Royal Rumble was not great. And it's nothing's really changed in the month since then. You know, I think she has been very overexposed, continues to be very overexposed, for a lot of reasons. But that's talking about the booking. The price is probably where it should be. I don't think she's going to do that great. It's funny because you and I differ on Chelsea Green. I mean, look, Chelsea Green's price, $50 for an autograph, $54 for a photo, is about as low as it gets for these things. You seem to think she'll do well. I don't. I understand why. In that, right now she's kind of a little bit of an internet darling. You know,
yeah,
she's growing in popularity. She's definitely someone who has much more favorability among fans than is indicated by her position on the card.
I think yet again $50, $54 for a photo op is a very good price. I think there's going to be the fans of the major pod New York is definitely like major pod country. I think there's going to be all those people that because she's married to Cardona and she's been herself in that universe. I think they'll show out to get her again, wearing the new shirt and all this stuff. I think it's a good price. I think it's actually a cheaper price than Tiffany Stratton was last year, and
it is. Bottom line is, where are all these major pod people when we had VSK at WrestleBash?
I think, all joking aside, I think they were at one of those. There was an event in somewhere. There was one of those live events that weekend. Do I think that really changed us significantly in terms of success versus failure? Probably not. But they were. I think they might have been up in Massachusetts that weekend at one of those spots where they do the live shows.
And then the last WWE name for Saturday is Tiffany Stratton. $84 photo, $79 autograph. I mean, that's probably about where she should be. She's pretty red hot right now as a personality. Definitely a pushed personality. I know that there's, she has a pretty high profile match at WrestleMania. We'll see. Honestly, a lot of it depends on what happens with her push. I could see if her push evaporates after Mania, which I think there's a very, very real possibility it might. And I'm not so sure she sells great.
But I think at a show like this, there's so much testosterone on the lineup, and there's so many just sweaty, pathetic guys out in the crowd that if you have an attractive woman on the card, they are going to pay money to meet them. And you could bring them out every single show. They'll get another photo. They'll have roses to give her. I don't think you could ever go wrong booking one of these women that all the guys are clamoring for.
So aside from the WWE people on Saturday and Dwayne Wade, this is some other Saturday. I think the star power is very, very high. We got Odell Beckham Jr. I think his prices are really good. $125 photo, $120 autograph. To me,
I'm
that's
tempted on him. I'm tempted on him because he's in that giant era where I was watching every single week. So I'm tempted for Odell.
He had a little bit of mainstream crossover,
Yeah.
as a personality. Same thing with Reggie Bush at $130 photo, $125 autograph. Reggie Bush was a kind of a mainstream name in the media.
If anyone's starting any sort of a Kim Kardashian's body count project, I mean, here you go, Reggie Bush.
Interestingly, whereas Bush and Beckham have pretty static prices, they have a Brian Dawkins. I mean, they have to bring in an Eagle, but 130 photo. But his autographs are between 125 and 300. So I guess he has premium pricing where the other ones in his price tier don't. That's a little bit odd.
Yeah.
They bring in NFL legend John Elway. I don't think I've ever seen Elway at a con. I mean, I know he's done them, but I haven't seen him at one.
He does. I think he does like that GTSM, whatever that. I think those are the initials of that big football, mainly a football show in New Jersey. I think he's been there. He's done shows around the country, but yes, I've never been in a building where John Elway was appearing.
He's a huge name, a really important name. Also, if you're a South Park fan, I mean, John Elway is probably one of the more frequently referenced celebrities on South Park. I think his pricing is very high. It makes it so that it's actually going to be hard for me to get John Elway. I would love to get John Elway, but at $285 for a photo op and between $275 and $700 for an autograph, it probably prices me out of John Elway, sadly.
Yeah, and then next up, Tyreek Hill. I'm not a huge football guy for this era, so I'm not even going to comment. I've heard the name ever so slightly. I've probably drafted him blindly in my fantasy leagues that I still do, despite not following too closely. But I guess that's fine. It's at least flat pricing on the autograph, so that's nice.
I don't know that it's for a non-New York talent who isn't yet a Hall of Famer. That's that's a little bit high, I think. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what he draws. I don't think he's going to draw, honestly. But We'll see. What do you think about Johnny Manziel?
Not a terrible price. I mean, he really didn't accomplish much of anything. But I mean, he's definitely a name that if you've put on ESPN in the last 5 years, you've heard.
Well, that's where it gets tricky, right? Because he's definitely a name that crossed into the mainstream of society, right?
Yeah.
So at the price he is, $70 photo op, $65 autograph, he's cheap enough where those are chiller prices,
I'm saying I think some people just get it just for the conversation starter of it's just something cool. Here's another one pulling at your strings here.
I've been clamoring for a Dan Marino photo op for years. I mean, Dan Marino is an all-time legendary NFL someone who definitely in my youth crossed over into the mainstream. He was very, very, very almost as a celebrity and as a football player, incredibly popular. But he's a $335 photo op and between $325 and $700 autograph. That's just a lot of money. I mean,
I think you got to do it.
Here's the thing: if you try and name who are the 5 biggest football player stars in history who are still alive, he very well could be in that group, So he's definitely in the conversation, and so it's hard because I get it, but I also that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for something that's going to go on Facebook. Talking about all these big names, and then we have Carlos Mendoza, who's whatever.
Listen, as the manager of the Mets, I will be getting him. They had him 15 minutes from my house at one of those, it was something. It was actually a really good price. It was around the same price as this, and you had a full dinner. But that's a gift and a curse. You have a full dinner, but then you also have to spend 2.5 hours sitting there eating dinner with these fans, and even Carlos Mendoza, who I don't want to do that. So I didn't do it because that just seemed like torture. But for this, it's a nice, 5-second experience. I think I'll take it. So
he's not going to draw. So
I'm in for Carlos.
When you have this, the thing is, when you have this level of star power on a day like this, someone like Carlos Mendoza gets hurt by that.
Well, here's the deal. I still think I might be disappointed. I think Saturday's light. If you look at the amount of talent, in number, there's not many. I think there's going to be a flood of Mets coming. I think that there's going to be probably
No,
3 to
because
4 current Mets.
the numbers are light, but the booking fees are heavy. You know what I mean? Because look what's we didn't even talk about Joe Montana. You have Dan Marino and Joe Montana at the same day of the same show. These guys are headliners in any other show in the country, and they're on the same day as each other. That's crazy, you know. Joe Montana, another one who I want to get. Joe Montana again. When you talk about the most famous, most popular, most successful football players who are still alive, he's in that top tier. $280 photo op. Autographs range from $270 to $1,500. I'm curious what item is. It's probably like a ticket to or something like that. You know, a rookie card or ticket. What item is a $1,500 autograph? But yeah, I mean, do you have any kind of pull towards getting a Marino or a Montana, or is it because they're just too expensive?
If I had a little bit more disposable income that, you know, beyond what I already dispose of, I probably would. But at this point, like as is, I'll probably end up spending $1,000 at this show. So would I go adding those on? Probably not. They'd likely fall in the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar pile from last year, where I really wanted to do something, but I just
and it's funny because even though we're complaining about Joe Montana and Dan Marino, Kareem's prices were double what theirs are.
I'm much more of a basketball guy than a football guy, so like Kareem is one I still kind of regret not doing.
Listen, Kareem is an all-time an important figure in U.S. history, but he's not more important than Dan Marino and Joe Montana combined. You know what I mean? That's like a thing that just still kind of blows me away. You have Piazza. You said you're going to get Piazza at this show.
I mean, I'll see now with all the other names that I now am able to get Wade. So I'll see where I'm at financially, but I would like to get an autograph. We will see.
Piazza's at $155 photo, between $150 and $500 autograph. Maybe the decision will be made for you. Maybe like custom designed poster prints will be premium items and price you out.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Kind of crazy, actually. Cal Ripken Jr., who did the previous show, but Cal Ripken does not do photo ops. I've been at
which is wild because he used to when I met him years ago. Like back in the era where you could get free photo ops at the table, he would set it up in a way where I remember it was at Steiner and Roosevelt. He would take maybe 10 people, do the autographs, and then he'd have you all wait off to the side. And I remember he got up and then took 10 photo ops with everyone, which
maybe honestly, maybe he wasn't selling photo ops at these shows because he doesn't like selling photo ops. Maybe that's like the thing.
Possible, I don't know, but I mean he's back now. So if you are a baseball fan, I feel like Cal is one of those guys you need. 2.25.
Historically important. So my point is he is selling photo ops at this show. It's the first show I've ever seen where he's selling photo ops. There may have been others I missed, but I know it because last year I said I would have got him and I didn't get him because it wasn't for sale. But $2.25 for a photo op, autographs between $185 and $575. I mean, Cal is up there. His important historical figures. Just want to point out that Cal Ripken Jr.'s photo op is cheaper than CC Sabathia's.
He was never a Yankee. I think it's probably that. And he didn't go into the Hall this year. I think it's really that simple.
I know. It's ludicrous to me,
I agree.
And I like CC. I what's funny? A photo op of CC probably looks sick because he's a huge, guy. But Cal is an important historical figure in a way that's different from some of these other guys. Then we have Dennis Rodman, who's been at everything ever. I mean, Dennis Rodman's on so many shows. 105 photo, 110 to 125 for an auto. Will Dennis stay the whole time, or
that's my question? When does he walk out?
Here's the problem: when Dennis is there with like a Dwayne Wade or someone else who's going to be drawing all the attention away from Dennis, he'll get up and walk out like he always does. It's one of those things that this is what Dennis Rodman does. We've seen him do it so many times. He's a head case. As anyone who knows him knows how it goes. What about? I don't really know anything about Charles Woodson except that his prices are really high.
I think the same way you get a Yankee bump, I think you get a Packers bump. I think that's one of those franchises with like a very, very loyal and diehard fan base. I think he's also don't know a ton about his numbers. I'm not going to start quoting anything like that, but I do know he was significant. And yeah, that's
His
about all I
prices
can
are
say.
very high.
Yeah,
$290 for a photo op, $280 to $500 for an autograph. These are like extremely high numbers. I don't think in New York City with this lineup at this show he's going to draw anything. I just don't think so. But I
agreed.
am happy. I'm happy to be proven wrong. And Sunday also has a very, very deep WWE lineup and also some other people on there who are kind of interesting. First up on Sunday, Allen Iverson. Are you going to try again?
Well, to be fair, I wasn't there last year when he did that. I just heard through the grapevine. So this would be my first attempt. I'll get to it in a moment, but there's two WWE names I actually want here. So as of now, I'm kind of in my head thinking I'll do Saturday and Sunday, which even saying that out loud makes me feel like vomiting because you never want to do that second day after that first day, like ever. But I probably will, so I'll try. I mean, I think the price $180 for an op I get why weight is more, but I mean, I think that's a fair price for Iverson. I'll try it. If he doesn't show up to the op, I get my nice easy refund. So what the hell?
Yeah, it's worth it. I mean, then let's do all the WWEs together, and then we'll go back to the sports. So,
Agreed.
I mean, again, the WWE lineup for Sunday is very significant. You have Cody Rhodes again, priced at $189 for a photo, $179 for an autograph. He will sell out probably immediately at that price. I don't even think that's debatable, right?
You need to get on this. You need Cody Rhodes.
I mean, listen, when this thing goes on sale the 10th, which is Thursday. So I hope it's not blocked on the school network because it's so annoying when they have these things go on sale in the middle of a weekday and you're scrambling on trying to get to do it. It's not easy.
Yeah.
They also have Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is one of those names where you got if a photo op $124, you got to get it.
That's a steal.
She's an all timer. I mean that's what that I believe that was the number at Big Event. $120. On her autograph at $119 is high unless you have a unique item, because she's another one. You can get her Funko Pop signed $80 to $100 all day long because she's done so many. Maybe if you have a figure, but again, even the figures, she's the type. She racks wherever she goes. She's done a ton of autograph signings. She's done a ton of off the books private signings. Like that we've talked about in a different episode. So autograph price is high. It'll be filled with kids. Rhea is a god. But if you have a unique piece, you never know when someone like Rhea will just dry up and stop doing these kind of things. So she's been doing so many of them, and she's such a huge draw. But you never know. So I love Rhea. Rhea's one of my favorites. So I would like to get some kind of autograph, but I also don't want to buy any more stuff. And actually, I've committed on this show to not buying any more stuff, so I'm not going to buy one. Kevin Owens, you have been on the fence about Kevin Owens. He's definitely someone who is a possibility for you.
Yeah, I'm not a guy that I don't like. Some people have meltdowns. Like if back to Scarlett Johansson, if people are not standing next to her, they will literally cry. Like it'll be very upsetting for some people. I can live without being directly next to someone, but Owens is significant enough. My op with him is an NXT group photo with Triple H and Finn and all these different people, and he's like 6 people away from me. I count it obviously as a photo with Kevin Owens. I'm fine with it, but for $70, especially if I could probably try to get someone like Ira to split it with me, I'll take a solo op. I mean, he headlined WrestleMania with Austin, so screw it.
How I got him. I got him, right? You know how? You remember?
Is that the Cali thing with
It was. So it was in LA. He was at the time he was in ROH, but he was not even he was attending the show as a fan. So he was walking around the floor of the convention as a fan, which is crazy. That was the time I flew out to LA for Muda and Liger and RVD. I see Kevin Steen at the time. I knew who he was from ROH. I saw him at shows and stuff, and I got him for free on the floor of the con. He looked like a kid. He was probably younger than I was. He is younger than I am, so that makes sense. He looks like a kid at the show. So he was only, I don't know what age he is now, but So I have a very, very young looking Kevin Owens.
Well played. After that, you have Damian Priest, who is the lone fresh face for me at this show, and I will probably be there. I mean, I've been wanting Priest for a while, and I will absolutely never do one of those Cricket Wireless things because.
And let's make it very clear. If Damian Priest were fired tomorrow and booked for a con locally, he would be as expensive or more expensive than he is at Fanatics.
Probably more. I think you could say that for a lot of these people. They would be more at a convention.
He's $84. $84 photo op, $79 autograph. That's what he would be around if he were fired. Kevin Owens, $74 photo, $69 autograph. That he would be more than that if they brought him to a con tomorrow.
Yeah, so I view this as like the time is now to take it. And speaking of the time is now, I'm shocked. Your prediction, yeah, I'm wrong. Unless they add someone else, but I feel like WWE is done. So we'll look at that. I mean, maybe with the heel turn, it wasn't.
I was gonna say you didn't anticipate the heel turn, and honestly, as in post WrestleMania, we don't know what their story is gonna be. But I think that it's just it was a really good guess, but it ended up being a flop. So
and then. What I think, I mean, she will do great, but on a personal level, Trish Stratus, she does too many cons. I feel like this is sort of, I don't know, it doesn't feel like Fanatics Fest to me. I would have rather to see like a Shawn Michaels, but I mean, I guess that's, who wouldn't rather see Shawn Michaels? But she'll do fine.
Right. Her price at $69 is about what her con price is, give or take. So if you need
she does
Trish,
she does the RICCs. Like, I don't know. I expect more from Fanatics, but it's cool.
Yeah, I actually don't think she'll draw too hot in New York. The people who go to this con, a lot of them are veterans of cons in the area, and she's done a lot. I just don't think she's going to do that great, especially, again, if you're deciding between Damian Priest and Trish Stratus or between Rhea Ripley and Trish Stratus. No one's choosing Trish Stratus. Stratus in this context.
This weekend, you have some very, popular women. So it's like, are they going to take the 50-year-old model or the 25-year-old model? And in most cases, they'll take the 25-year-old model. So,
and not for nothing, it's not just entirely about age. I mean, as big a star as she was, Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley are bigger stars than Trish ever was, in my opinion. I mean, they're genuinely big stars now. And they have reach internationally in ways that she didn't and probably won't ever have. That's no knock on her. The business has grown, and the company has grown, and the reach has grown, the viewership has grown, and not for nothing, but they're also considerably better than she ever was. And I understand that, the way they look plays a role, and look, not for nothing, but Rhea and Liv, they can hold up very well in that department as well. But. Yeah, I don't think this is the right venue for a Trish. I don't think she'll do
not
well at all.
So that's the WWE lineup. I think it actually, as far as if you were going to put together a lineup, I would have liked Dom, I would have liked Solo, I would have liked certain things differently. But I mean,
second year in a row with no Dom, it's upsetting.
I know, but I think it's a well put together lineup. I think it makes a lot of sense. The fact that I only need 2 cheap photo ops allows me to do Dwayne Wade and some other stuff sports-wise with a little more freedom than I did last year. I had so much, not just money, but time invested into all the WWE things I had to do. This frees me up a lot, so I'm cool with it. And I would hope at the end of this thing you finally have Cody, because, I mean, you got to finish your story.
So honestly, looking at I'm going to be very honest, looking at all these non-WWE names on Sunday, other than Iverson, these names are not great.
Wayne Corbett, who's the next name on our list, is honestly the football version of John Franco. This guy's been at more car dealerships than I don't know what, but he's been all over the place. He does all these little local stuff, like Modell's signings, back when Modell's was a thing.
He's priced at $40, which means he's probably coming in for free. And he's gonna keep what he makes. I think that's what's gonna. If
he's lucky, he draws more like Gooden than Franco because his price is better. But he's not. It's whatever. Eric Dickerson, I'll be completely honest, I've never heard of, so I have nothing to say.
What team? What team is he from? I'm trying to look at the.
Was that the Rams? I think maybe.
Yeah, it looks
like the Rams. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not sure.
I'm not
Who
sure why
knows?
either.
His
Marshall
hairstyle
Faulk
looks cool.
also from the Rams. I don't really know him. Do you?
Yeah, he was solid. That's a solid price. He was on those Kurt Warner teams, so that's fine. Brandon
Uh,
Graham, again, I don't know who this is, but it's an Eagle, and I know they get enough of the Philly fans to drive in. I saw a lot of Eagles and Sixers shirts and jerseys last year.
they're also bringing in Breece Hall from the Eagles. He's the
Yeah.
Eagle or a Jet? Again, I think these are just Eagles to round out the lineup.
I think Hall's a Jet. I don't think the Eagles have that green
is it a
trim
Jet?
around the. Listen, correct me if I'm wrong, Eagles fans out there, but
Yeah, I just don't know who the. I mean, this just
Jets
shows
have
my
that
football
green.
knowledge is just not that deep. Breece Hall is a Jet. There you go.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay.
Anything interesting about him? Oh my God. They are honestly the press on Breece Hall is not great. As far as his future, he's a kid. He's 23 years old. Never mind. I'm sure he'll be fine. Kelly O'Hara from soccer.
I have no idea.
She's
cool,
doing a podcast. She's not even signing. So whatever. Who cares?
Okay.
And
then Revis Island, Darrell Revis. If anyone's a Jet fan out there from that era, like he was the defensive guy. That's cool. I think the price is fair. I think he'll do pretty well. I think he will do well with Jet fans. That's nice. Mike Schmidt.
Mike Schmidt is the headliner for this day. I've heard he's kind of a jerk. Have you? Have you heard?
I guess. I haven't heard he's nice. I haven't heard good things. I haven't really heard bad things either, but I've never heard good. You get a lot of the Philly drive-in. You could argue this guy is probably on the Mount Rushmore of.
I don't. I think he transcends just being a Philly fan. I mean, he's of that era. He is a face of baseball. He's an incredibly important name, an unbelievable superstar. His pricing is not listed. I imagine it'll be very high.
Yeah. And I'm sure no matter what his pricing is, he's going to do pretty well because he's Mike Schmidt.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I honestly, I'm tempted on Mike Schmidt, to be honest. To me, he's like of that Montana Marino kind of name where he sort of transcends.
No, I agree. But as a Mets fan, I don't know if I want to get an Eagle. I mean, a Philly.
Philly.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I want to get an Eagle either, but yeah.
Yeah, but he's just a superstar, an unbelievable player, ridiculous numbers his whole career. Just a great. And finally, they're bringing in Michael Vick again. Did Michael Vick do last year? He did, right?
Yeah, and I saw a few people getting the pro op. His pricing is fair. He's one of those guys where I think the scandal overshadows his career a bit. I think the scandal also kind of keeps him relevant. I think I was going to say
if there was no scandal, no one would be bringing him into cons. He was a journeyman player, more or less. I mean, he's not noteworthy for his career. He's noteworthy for dogfighting.
I could argue that his journeyman career is sort of was necessitated by the dogfighting. If he didn't have that interruption, I think he would have been a little better than that. But because he had some big years.
But. Yeah, you might be right. Look, he was the reason why that dogfighting scandal was so big is because he was high on a lot of people's lists. He was touted as an excellent performer.
And if you were in my age group, if you were playing like Madden and NFL 2K back in those days, I mean, Michael Vick was a cheat code. You could beat anybody with Michael Vick. What you could do with him in those games. So Michael Vick is awesome. I met him randomly, I think, years ago at NBC. And if I didn't, I would 100% get him. Part for the scandal, part for the fact that I used to just enjoy playing as him in the video game, like, massively. But as of now, that is the Fanatics Fest lineup. I'm sure if there's anyone else added, we will cover it as we always do. But what do you think? Just going through the lineup, how do you feel it compares to last year?
I think it's better than last year's. Look, for me, last year was Hulk, right? That was the thing that was my draw. Hulk and Punk were the draws to that show, but Hulk more so. So WWE wise, I actually think it's worse. It's largely the same, to be honest. But
you lose Punk. No one's replacing Punk. And if
you lose Punk, you use Hulk, you gain Undertaker. I mean, come on, it's not a fair comparison given
if you say Undertaker cancels out Hulk, maybe he does, but I mean, Damian Priest
not for rarity though.
Punk. Punk does not equal Priest. No. I think WWE is definitely a little bit weaker,
and I love Priest as an add-on. I was complaining they didn't have Priest last year. He was one of my wants for last year. I understand why they brought in Jacob Fatu, right? He's someone who's really not been around. I mean, he was on the Indies enough that you could have gotten him, but bringing him in is like a hot property. I'm actually surprised they didn't bring in Penta, because I think Penta is a name in this context in New York City who would do extremely well at an event like this. But I understand why they didn't.
That is a little confusing. I would have absolutely had Penta slotted in somewhere.
I mean, I don't know why they're not doing Ray at these. Ray should be at every signing they have.
Agreed.
Every single one.
And I will just make a follow-up bold prediction, and it's not bold at all. They will add a bunch of current New York Knicks, I imagine, to Friday, just so they could torture me. That'll be my prediction for that. There's going to be Knicks. It has to be. I can't imagine you have all these guys like Brunson. You're not going to bring them out again. They did so well last year. They didn't have enough time, and they oversold. So I can't imagine that's not going to happen again. And for Saturday, you don't just book Mendoza. You don't only book the manager. There's going to be more. Maybe Pete again. I don't think Juan Soto or Lindor are possible.
I don't know where you put them. The Saturday lineup is insane. It's insane for me.
We'll see. But I think if you went in turn, I know what you're saying, booking fees, whatever. I think there's geographic location. There's room for these people. There's going to be at least one or two current Mets added to accompany Mendoza. We'll see. I might be wrong. Financially, I kind of hope I am wrong, because this show wouldn't even be that big of a nut at this point. I could actually do some things and,
All right, so let's play a game then. Let's give ourselves a week, and then next week we come up with our preliminary spending for Fanatics, and we compare them.
I like it.
All right. I hate to do this in advance because, by next week we'll be ready to. We'll be ready to pay.
Yeah, so we got to know what we're buying.
Yeah, that's true. It's a smart thing. We're doing it we're not just doing it for listeners. We're doing it for ourselves, really, so that we know what we're actually spending.
Maybe I just speak for myself, but are you with me in like tentatively thinking Saturday, Sunday for you, or
as agonizing as that is to say out loud? I don't see a way out of it.
Yeah, so I think I'm in for the weekend. I got to buy one of those.
And what really sucks is if I'm in there Saturday, suddenly I start looking at, because I don't have a Liv Morgan photo op, I don't have a Jacob Fatu, I don't have a Charlotte Flair.
You got a Yeet.
I don't care about it. No, I view it as you don't understand. Even though I've said it out loud, it's not a mystery. I don't think he's any good, and I hope he disappears. So I think
there's definitely some WWE people there. If you were in the building Saturday, that you really should consider, like Liv and Jacob.
Right, I'm not paying for Chelsea Green because it's ridiculous. But I'm also, just for putting that aside, I'm definitely considering the quarterbacks. I'm definitely considering Ripken. There's three quarterbacks who are really freaking like legit serious names. Maybe they'll do like $1,000 like Elway, Marino, Montana op.
That's another thing that's what I said before. They should be doing more of that.
I would do. I hate to say that. I would do that. I would do it. Because to me, it's a once in a lifetime, super cool thing.
I'm not saying I would do it, but I agree with you in terms of the significance. That would be really awesome.
Oh my god, where am I even getting these ideas? Ridiculous.
So now I have homework. I got to figure out what I'm spending.
So speaking of which, there's a couple things coming up for us in the near future. We announced at the top of the show that we are locked in for Fan Expo Philly. We're going to do it. So that's May 17th. That means I got to figure out what I'm going to spend for that.
And guess what? This week they announced that each day this week they are announcing a new name for Fan Expo Philly. So, I mean, our budget might balloon by the time we talk to all you guys next week.
it's Fan Expo. You always have to take everything they say with a grain of salt. Typically the big names like the Gibsons show up, but the B tier names are your frequent cancellations at that show.
Yeah,
I'm not saying they're gonna, but I'm saying I'm not getting ahead of myself. So we're locked in for that. I've had this on the calendar for a minute, but now that it's coming up soon, I have a meet and greet with the band The Used towards the end of April. I'm very excited because I've been seeing The Used live since the first time I saw them was 2004, I think. Something in that ballpark. So you're talking 20 years ago. I really should look up exactly when that was, but I've been seeing them a lot. I saw them at a very cool private show a couple years ago in New York City during COVID, actually. And then but they've never really sold meet and greets in New York. Anyway, they've done them out west because they're a Utah band. But they're doing meet and greets at this tour. They're doing those kind of tours where it's like they're doing 3 days in a row in each city, and they do a full album each day, kind of thing.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so they're the reason I'm going Monday the 22nd. They're Monday the 21st. Sorry, they're doing them. So the show they're doing the 19th, the 20th, and the 21st in New York City, and they're 3 different albums, one each night. And so I could have bought my meet and greet for any of the nights, but the album that I like the best is Monday night, the 21st. So, but getting a photo op with The Used is sick. I mean, it just is. They're unbelievable.
Much like
band.
most of your music things, I have no clue who this is, but I'm aware that that's more my tunnel vision, unless they're black.
It is pretty remarkable that it's this band that's been around for multiple decades with tons of mainstream exposure, and you've never heard of them. It is pretty interesting. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And the best part of that is you didn't even know who, and I'm not even saying I'm a fan, but you didn't know who Chappell Roan was. I mean, now have you seen Chappell Roan in mainstream press and stuff now?
Yes, and I also saw a male coworker yesterday dance around in his room to Pink Pony Club. So I do know. I now know a second song, and I also have a lifetime's worth of stuff to make fun of him for.
Did you see there's a video went viral on TikTok or Instagram Reels or whatever of Ed Sheeran and Jimmy Fallon disguised in the New York City subway as buskers, and they were totally the mask beards and whatever on. They were more or less unrecognizable, and they were in the city playing a cover of Pink Pony Club to a huge crowd gathered around them. This is a viral video with millions.
My algorithm is very weird. If I go on my TikTok, I see like landscaping videos because I for some reason enjoy those. To see them overhaul a patch of land and make it look nice. And then I see old WCW and WWF clips. That's largely my algorithm. So I don't see a lot of that cool stuff or the stuff with timely songs. That's it. So I have no idea. I have not seen that, but that sounds pretty funny.
So yeah, but it was massive. I mean, I think it was, I forget which, it was a news agency's video that I saw. It was not their video, but it was massive. But point being that it's interesting what your tunnel vision is, because these certain things massively popular you just never get introduced to. But anyway, I'm going to see The Used, so I'll have that report sometime after April 21st. Hopefully it'll be a good one. It's one of those VIPs where you get pre-signed stuff and then the photo op, that kind of thing. I'm sure it's sold out, so I don't think it's the kind of thing where you can bring extra stuff to. It'll be a cattle call, and that's fine. It's bad enough I'm going to a concert on a Monday night. It's bad, because you know that day what my attitude is going to be.
You are going to regret this majorly.
Oh, I already regret it. We're 3.5 weeks away, and I already don't want to go. And never mind the fact that we're going to be coming off of vacation then, and I'm going to be going away, and forget it. It's yeah. And then finally, it's a cool announcement. We will have some more WWE ID signings coming up soon. We're not ready to announce yet, but there was a cool little announcement that you brought to my attention. That as you may not, I mean, most people probably don't know, but they're in the process of scheduling a WWE ID Championship tournament for a men's and women's champion. The tournament is kicking off WrestleMania weekend, which is the weekend of the 19th of April. But the significance is that even though she is not an ID talent, Brittany Brooks, who we did a signing with at the PWJ show a couple weeks back, has been added to that tournament.
Yeah, Gabe Sapolsky, Brittany and Zeta Steele were doing a little back and forth on Twitter, and Gabe Sapolsky said, instead of fighting on Twitter, how about we make the match at the ID tournament? This does not mean Brittany is ID'd, but it does kind of make you scratch your head and say, well, if this person, you know, they had some spots for female talent, if this is like the first one they've went toward, this girl in her 20s that, you know, we thought enough of to work with, I think it's sort of a safe prediction, on top of the prediction we already made, that she may be on the ID list sometime in the future. Would you agree?
Listen, it's a perfect segue that if you are shopping for autographs, we do have Brittany Brooks autographs available on www.markedoutcollectibles.com. I know. And now that she's someone noteworthy, so we already have products of hers, you know, not too many out there. And we also have them on our eBay store. Is Brittany Brooks on eBay or not yet?
She is. She's on eBay.
All right. So we have them on our eBay store as well at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook. And so right now we're not announcing any more private signings, but we have a ton of merch out there. You just dropped the Claudio stuff on Facebook. I saw, and plenty of other stuff. There's so much stuff we have. It's super high quality, and we're super excited to make it available for everyone. So you have your homework for next week.
I mean, this is not fun homework because I got to figure out how much I'm spending. But yes, I think it's important for all the listeners, including us, to sort of, you know, now's the time, because Fanatics Fest is not like another show where you just sort of PayPal. You know, you don't pay, you know, PayPal Salvatore and the other vendors the weekend before for what you want. You got to lock in a lot of this stuff right away.
It sells out.
It's like concert tickets. So you got to figure this out. That's why we're doing this as a multi-step breakdown for all of you, because this is a big deal. This is a very big deal. You got to have some strategy going in. So yeah, I will complete my homework.
Same thing. So we will go out there. We'll take the week to get our homework done. And for markedout.com, Marked Out Collectibles, and Marked Out Radio, I'm Sean.
I'm Dana.
And we will see you next week with our homework assignment.